We dedicate this one to the hip hop.
Classic.
Hot, sicker than your
Classic. Classic. Classic.
sicker than your
Classic.
sicker than your average. Hot, sicker than your average. Pop a twist cabbage off instinct.
You are now listening to the Chapter of the Architect podcast with DJ Architect and Vickeeevick.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you're hanging out here in the Chapter of the Architect. This is going to be chapter 25. We're going to do something different today. It's going to be just me, Vickeeevick. We're going to be shooting this shit, and we're going to be talking about pretty much whatever the hell we want to talk about. Music, movies, projects that we've got coming, in particular questions that Vic has for me, and particular questions that I have for Vic. Vickeeevick, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? What's going on? We should have gave Sherm some menudo, dog. I'm telling you, menudo or fun, dog.
Hey.
We should have given him that. I'm telling you, I feel like he really wanted to stay. He really did.
I think so, man, but I think he was probably tenía goma. You know what I mean? He was probably a little bit inebriated from last night's drinking. And he, you're right. Maybe he did want to throw up. But nonetheless, Big Sherm left the studio in a hurry.
Funny. Hey, so I've been meaning to ask you, like, me and my boy Grizzle are coming out with like project, an EP, and man, I was just gonna release it, bro. Like, why should I mix it? Like, what's the point of mixing it? I made all the beats on my machine. I leveled them. I feel like I kind of did level them, but why should I get them mixed? That's one thing I always wondered. Like, why should I get my album mixed if it sounds okay to me?
All right, let me ask you something. With your homeboy Grizzle, obviously, is he rapping on the project?
No, it's just beats. So it's a 5-song EP, instrumental EP.
Listen,
instrumental EP.
If it's an instrumental EP, which is, I think is fucking dope, by the way, to come out with an EP just with instrumentals, then it's not necessarily it's not necessarily that imperative. The reason why you want to get an actual mix when you have an individual rapping on it and you're doing the production is because there's a lot more tracks, there's a lot more layers that you have to balance.
Wait, so you're saying it's imperative when you have vocals on top of the beats?
Yeah, because you have to balance.
Someone singing or rapping. That's when you're saying it becomes really important then to mix the album.
Right, because the vocals now become an instrument, right? So the vocals are now like a snare or a guitar or a melody or a piano, right? But what you got to understand is with that vocal, there's different tracks that come with that vocal. So there's the vocal recorded for the first verse. And within that first verse can contain an additional 3 layers of recording, right? So it could be an additional 2 that he could be ad-libbing. And then
what's an ad lib?
Okay, so let's say there's a point in your lyrics where you want to emphasize on certain words.
Real quick answer. I feel like the quick answer is this. Yeah. And then if you say a word there, then you double up the word. You double up the word.
Yeah, you're doubling up on the word to make to give emphasis on that particular word, and you don't necessarily just want to do it once. Sometimes you want to do it more than once.
Okay, so that's an ad lib. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. But then you have your hook, and your hook is going to have 2 to 3 ad libs, right? Because sometimes you want your hook to be powerful, so you're going to sing it. You're going to have maybe 2 to 3 tracks just on your hook. So you see how you're layering it. That's why it's important to have somebody to mix it.
So I have these 5 beats that's going to come out on the EP. I still have them separated. I have my hi-hat track, I have my kick track, my snare track, my sample track, my bass line track.
Did you mix those individual tracks?
So when you say did I mix them, I made them sound the way I thought was best. So my question is,
you're being the producer, right?
Right. So I made the beats, or Greg and I made the beats, right? But at some points, I had the hi-hat's too loud or the kick's too low, right? So you adjust the volumes a little bit,
right?
But so check this out: when I have all 5 songs, and song number 1 is louder than song number 5.
Yeah.
Song number 3 is louder than song number 4. So now so when I listen to the newest Jay-Z, the 444, all of it sounded like it was mostly the same volume. Don't get me wrong. There's still times when even the professional rappers have too loud of songs, too low of songs. But
now you're talking about mastering.
Oh, mastering.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about mastering.
Okay, so now that we know mixing is you grabbing individual tracks, mastering.
Individual tracks is like this. Like, for example, on one track it'll be the hi-hats, which is
right. Another
so
track,
you can control the volume.
Right.
On another track it'll be
the snare.
It'll be the snare, which is
right.
So think about this. Listen to this drum loop. The kick, the hi-hat, and the snare, each sound is on a different track. That's what you're saying, right?
Right. They're on a different track, but the reason why you put them on a different track so you're able to control individual volume, right? So mastering, all it is controlling each individual song. So as we're mixing goes into the very minute details, right? Mastering
the minute details of each track.
Right,
That's the mixing.
Exactly.
Okay,
mastering is grabbing the songs and putting all songs at equivalent volume level.
So it's almost like normalizing all 5 songs in a way. You get all 5 songs on one track inside of Logic or something. When I use Adobe Premiere like every day, so I'm thinking, you know, something like that where you put it all on one track and and Adobe Audition, I use that too. So I would, in my head, this is what I would think of first. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would get all my 5 songs that are different files. I have 5 different MP3 files. I would put them inside of my program of Adobe Audition, and I would normalize it in there. So now all 5 songs are on one track, normalized to go as loud as I can. That's what I would do. Correct me what's correct.
That's one way of mastering.
What you would do different. Tell me what you would do different about that.
That's one way of mastering, and a lot of people do it that way. There's nothing wrong with what you just said, but there's a lot more to mastering. So mastering also has to do with the sequence of the songs, right? So while you're in that particular software, now you have the opportunity to put song number 5 as song number 1, sequence them in whatever event you want, right? And then now mastering also now allows you the space to give a 2 or 3 second space between song number 2 and song number 3.
So how would you master the 5? So like from the beginning to end, like what would you do? What program would you bring so you have the 5 MP3 songs in the folder. I just sent it to you. Hey, Carlos, I just finished my EP. Here are the 5 different songs. I'm going to send them to you. Can you master them?
I wouldn't.
Oh.
Because I don't consider myself a professional to master.
Okay. Well, I like that. Humbleness. Right. Kendrick Lamar. I like that. But let's say I'm coming at you as my boy. Like, hey, I don't have time to master these, man. Like, and I can't send them to someone like Dr. Dre to master them. So, can you master them for me? Can you do your thizzle? Just how would you do it?
Okay, then
I explained how I would do mine.
Okay,
you know?
I would grab them in a software such as the software that I utilize, which is Reason Record. I would upload all songs to Reason, and then I would individually level those songs individually so they're at one particular level, right? Once I do that, then I would bounce that length of track. So we're looking at 5 beats, right? I would record that in Reason Record. I would bounce that to probably like a software like Audacity, and I would boost up the. So
you're saying now it's all one track. You're saying, and
now
then now you would import it into Audacity as one track,
right?
Okay,
and then
I just want to make sure I'm following.
So all the spacing within the actual track, all the actual leveling, I would do that in one piece of software, right? So all 5 tracks would be in one piece of software. I would save it as such, and then I would bounce that to Audacity, and then I would bump up the amplification. We already know that they're at a plane level within that one software, right? So I took the time to grab each individual track and said, okay, cool. They're about point negative so 0.5, right?
Let me ask you this then. Okay, so when you say that, it makes me think about this. Like, what if, let's say I'm a little guy trying to make it, but I get a guy who's making some noise, like Blue in Exile. Blue is like a dope rapper. He's not exactly mainstream, but he's making a lot of noise. He's one of my favorite rappers. Let's say he comes to me and I was able to get him on a song, right?
Right.
And let's say he comes to me after he hears the mix of the song and he's like, hey man, that song that I was on, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your project, but I think the hi-hats are a little too high on the song that I'm on with you. All of a sudden, what does that mean to you? Because I'm thinking it means, wow, you got to go back. What does that mean to you?
That's easy fix. That's an easy fix, and I'll tell you why. Because if you were the originator of that track, right? If you were the producer, if you produced that track, then you have individual control to those hi-hats.
Right.
So all you do is, we're gonna go back, and
I'm saying you, like, you're my boy, you mixed it for me. Blue came up to me and was like, dang man, these hi-hats are a little too loud.
Technically, all I did was master it. You're doing the mixing, right? Oh, so you're the producer. Those hi-hats are your fault.
Oh, okay. So it would come back to me.
It would come back to you because you were the producer.
So I would need. Oh, okay, I need it. But then I gotta resend them back to you.
Grabbing the highs and the lows and the mids is the individual mix in the track, and because you produce the track, you have individual control for each one of those hi-hats.
When I made the beat, yes. When I made the beat, I had
comes out to be too high. You really can't blame that on the individual who mastered it.
Oh, not at all. I'm definitely. Oh no, I'm not. Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I'm not trying to blame. Not at all. What I'm saying,
it's not about blame, but the individual responsible for that is the person that mixed the track.
No doubt. Exactly. Yes, that's the person responsible. But we're not trying to pass out blame. What I'm saying is, let's say Blue. Like, obviously, man, art is subjective.
Right.
It's going to be different to every person. It might have sounded. Correct. Loud to Blue.
The high pitch might have sounded perfect for you.
Yeah.
But for him, it might have been like, hey, look, man.
So as an artist. As an upcoming artist, I have Blue telling me this, whose levels above me.
Who's got
he's not Jay-Z, but he's levels above me.
A lot more than you.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So what do I do? How dare you talk about me like that, Carlos? How dare you?
No, I wouldn't take it that way.
You didn't hear
I
that.
I wouldn't take it. I hear what you're saying.
I'm kidding.
No, I hear what you're saying. No, but I'm thinking about.
Who are you, Victor? Victor, who are you?
Because I'm consuming the information you just gave me, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, how would I respond to it?
Like you would respond like, who the heck am I? That's Blue.
Listen, there's been times where situations like that have happened.
A poco.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know what that means? A poco.
A poco.
Tell them what it means.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You go ahead. Well, sometimes, right? We're saying sometimes, right?
Because it means something different to like every Hispanic culture, right? Like, when I think of Apoco, I think of my boy AD. He's married to my cousin Rachel. My boy says Apoco, but it's kind of like yeah, right. Yeah, right, but in a brat way. But you're like being a brat about it.
Right,
like if you said that to your mom or something,
motherfucker, you lying.
Apoco,
like you lying, like you exaggerating.
But you can say it real sarcastic, like if you say it to you, Apoco.
Yeah, man. Hey, now listen, man. Getting into the recording process, I'm gonna tell you some real important things, and this goes on to individuals who.
Before we go to that though, please remember what you're gonna say. But so Blue comes up to me and says, "Hey, I think the hi-hats should be turned down a little bit." I hear it again and I say, "Okay, yeah, I agree." Okay, so now what does that mean for you as my homeboy who mixed it? So I gotta send you all 5 tracks again. So you got to do everything over again, right?
It really depends on.
After I'm done mixing it, I send it to you for mastering. What do you then do? I said, hey, Carlos, man, this hi-hat is too high.
Let's say Blue was talking about a particular song, right?
Yeah, he was talking about song number 2. The hi-hat is too high.
No, that's an easy fix, man. So all you do is you go back. You as the producer go back.
Me. Okay, me. Not you as the mixer. Me as the producer.
You as a producer, you go back. You lower the volume on the hi-hats, right? You save that template, but you don't touch the vocals. Leave the vocals as is.
Right. We're trying to leave vocals out of it.
Right.
Just to keep it simple.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were talking about a beat, right?
A beat. Yeah. Okay. Just to keep it simple, everybody. We're talking about beats. Okay. So when it gets into vocals, we're talking about something even more complex, fellas.
You just lower the hi-hats, and then you resend me that track.
Just that one track?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Oh, because you already have the other 4.
Right.
Okay. And then what do you do?
I go back into Reason, which is the software where all 5 are plugged in. I go to that particular track. I erase the one with the loud hi-hats, and I reinsert that with the new updated hi-hats. Right?
The reinsert the new MP3 with the hi-hats.
Right.
Yep.
So now I go ahead and I re-level that new track to the same level the other 4 are at. I bounce that back to Audacity, and then I amplify that, and I send that back to you.
So it is a process.
Yeah.
That so any little edit, just like in video editing, I get a small edit. People think it's small. Oh,
No,
just make
it's
a
a
small
process.
edit.
It's a lot of
process.
work.
It's not. But don't. And that's when I come back to this too. Like, your stuff doesn't have to be perfect. I've always felt that way. I mean, 50 Cent, it's always just been shown. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's more important to get it out there than it is to perfectify it. Like, what I mean by perfectify is, that's a dope beat already. You want to turn the snare, just up just 2 notches. Like, just put the beats out there, put the music out there. Like, don't be too picky. That's the new age. We got Spotify. Mm-hmm. You can have an article inside on Hip Hop DX and all of a sudden wake up with 50,000 followers overnight. So it's more important to get it out there.
What you're saying is don't take too much time perfecting it.
Yeah, you worry about that when you get to Jay-Z's level, bro. Jay-Z's level is different because he has everybody doing things for him.
Right, yeah.
Everybody's doing things. He only has to focus on the lyrics. Right now, you got to focus on the lyrics, the mixing, the volume, the beats, the pay. Like,
you know what?
Take it easy on yourself.
That's a valid point. I see what you're saying. I look at it from a different point of view as you spending more time with these different skill sets, it's only going to make you better. So even though it is time consuming, you got to keep in mind is that we are our worst critic, and then we know what's good, and you really can't put a price on that. You can't put a timeline on that.
Yeah, not at all.
You know what I mean? Like, what.
But you also have to realize no one's going to hear your music if you don't put it out.
That's a valid point too. I think that's the fine line where people have to come into fruition is that it's got to be good enough to satisfy you as the artist, but time-wise,
yes,
it needs to see the light of day.
This is what I see the difference. The difference between people that are 35 and older that have not made any kind of noise. I've noticed people that are my age or older, they want to perfect it. They want to perfect it. They think of Dr. Dre. Dude. All the kids that are 25 and younger, they released a 4-song EP that they recorded in their garage, messing around.
Yeah.
Boom, shot up with some followers. Not because it's necessarily good, but because they're trying. People like to see people that try. People like to see people trying, dude. Like anything new, anything fresh. Like people love to see a passionate person. It doesn't have to be perfect. People love to see someone that's passionate about something.
You know what? I agree with you, but the person that spends time perfecting it shows passion.
No doubt.
You see what I'm saying?
I like that too.
Right?
No doubt.
You have to show passion.
You have to.
Now I think
that was the old school way, though.
Yeah. Now I think
Dr. Dre.
I was gonna say that. Now even Dr. Dre has come out with bombs.
Dr. Dre has
stinkers, should I say? Right?
Dude, Dr. Dre has spent 2 weeks on one snare.
Yeah.
Yo, you can't do that today, bro. You can't do that today. Not on a snare.
Whether you can or you can't really is debatable over how you're financially successful or not, right? A person like, not making huge amounts of money in the studio, I would advise not to.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I haven't made it yet. I can't spend all this time perfecting for someone for my. Now I'm not dissing myself.
To me, that's a lot of time to spend. More than 2 hours on a snare.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do a lot in 2 hours.
Carlos, if your beat is dope, if your song is dope, and I'm listening to it on Spotify, I'm just gonna keep playing it. Like I edit audio, and I'm not that big of a critic on musicians around me. Like, yo, that beat is sick. Yeah, his vocals might have been a little loud, but whatever. I turned my treble down on my stereo. Like, that song's still sick. Like,
but I think that's the difference in opinion right there. Like, that's not your job to turn down the treble. You see what I'm saying?
Great point.
I'm going to tell you something, man. Come out with this project. One of the MC's vocals treble is high. Yeah. Whoever did the mixing did a bad job.
And now you're talking about the vocals levels
the
are
vocals,
high.
right?
Yes.
So
that's different from what we were talking about earlier with the 5-song EP with the beats.
Yeah, but let me just tell you about how the audience perceived it. They loved the individuals. One of the MCs where the vocals were mixed correct. When this individual's verse came out, lyrics are dope, high. They hated it. It wasn't that his lyrics were bad. It was because it came out high, and it was a painful factor to them to listen to it.
What are you talking about?
So it automatically, we're talking about. I'm not going to name any songs in general,
right?
But we're just talking about when you listen to something and it's not audibly attractive. It doesn't matter what the message is. You're just automatically turned off.
I 100% agree. But you, as an audio engineer, you have a sensitive ear, bro. Like, you have a perfectionist ear. That's one thing we have to. I'm not kidding, Carlos. You have a perfectionist, but you can appreciate it. But I'm not. I'm just, that's a fact, bro. Right. That's a fact. And most people that listen to music, they don't think about it like an audio engineer.
They're not supposed to, because that's my job.
Exactly.
Right.
But so what I mean is, like, so when people are coming out with their new songs, new EPs, the new way, like, put up a video on YouTube, Spotify, I'm just putting an album out, like, for free. It doesn't have to be perfect, because the average person doesn't think about it as like, oh, it sounds bad. You're thinking about it, and I appreciate it. But you're thinking about it from a Jay-Z level, like
from an audio engineer's point of view.
Like beautiful or not, but beauty is subjective. So a person, I have a girl, my cousin. I'm sorry, my girl cousin. She's 22 years old. She's going to college. She's about to study, but. I'm sorry, she has a midterm this morning, so she has a 45-minute drive. She ain't thinking about how good the audio sounds. Yeah. She's just worried about enjoying
retaining whatever information, right.
I apologize. She's on her way to college that morning. It's a 45-minute drive for her. From Temecula to Cal State San Marcos. It's a 45-minute drive. She's stressing about the midterm. She just wants to listen to some music to relax. The 45-minute drive.
She can care less of the audio quality as long as it's decent.
As long as it's
audibly edible, right?
Yes, as long as it's decent.
I agree.
So the Nas album, the Illmatic album, when it first came out, it's been mixed since then, dude. When it first came out,
the Illmatic?
Yeah, when it first came out on the first copy, it wasn't crisp. I mean, it was good. It was good enough. What I mean is, it was good enough, and it became a classic. But it wasn't mixed professionally. I was DJ Premier, Large Professor, Nas. It was some guy. It wasn't. They didn't have the tools to like send it off to professionals, to send it off to. It wasn't like that. They came out with the way they thought it sounded best.
Do we know who mastered the album?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, because level wise they were all equivalent, track per track. So that wasn't the issue. It was mastered well. So now we're talking about mixing. Did you find any glitches, anything wrong, any imperfections within the mix?
Yeah. So on the first couple songs originally, especially on the is it the halftime song? Yeah, the halftime song. Oh, I love that. So I gotta play that right now. It's halftime. Dude, that's one of the illest, dude. One of the illest, bro. Like it just gets you hyped. Like just it's halftime.
One of my favorite songs on that album is "Represent."
Represent, yeah. You do what? I represent. What you do? You do what? I represent. Yeah, I do what? Yeah,
that's a dope song. That's a dope song. Look, listen to that, man. Listen to that. Listen to the way he rides the rhythm. Tumble. Full of mad criminals who don't care, guzzling beers. We all stare at the out-towners. Get the full pounders. Listen how he rides that beat. Beautiful. But let's go back to what you're talking about. So what
I gotta play the song I was talking about, halftime. This is what I was talking about. So halftime. When the very first time the album came out, hold on, we gotta let the horns drop. It's a horny beat. Gotta let the horns drop, girl. It's a horny beat. It didn't sound like much, but when you're listening to this in your car,
Hey, man, real quick. Hey, pause real quick. Were you guys that time? Let me go back.
Ooh,
this is about
back in
19.
Nah, girl, I want to go way back.
This is about 94, man.
Hey, that's around the time
Yeah.
Doggy Style just dropped. I always
Yeah.
love that. So on the East Coast, what dropped in 94? Because on the West Coast, it was Doggy Style, The Chronic had just dropped, and the Dog Food album was about to come out.
So around 93 to 94, you're looking at Nas, Illmatic, Wu-Tang, Enter the 36 Chambers. I know.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Right there it is, right there.
Drew the Damager was coming out.
All right.
But let me get back.
I didn't mean.
No. But let me get back to what I was saying. He goes, before I blunt, I take out my fronts. I don't know what in New York around that time they had cats wearing fronts.
Say it again. Before I take out my blunt.
No, before blunt, I take out my fronts. That's what Nas said, right? You can hear this podcast in its entirety and all other chapters on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. The links to this episode can also be found in the description for your convenience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.